Is it fair to say there is a doer before enlightenment, but after you stop being the doer? Is it fair to say there is a doer before enlightenment, but after you stop being the doer? Kind of, but not really. It seems that way. It can seem that way to the seeker, that what's being said is that this is about transforming you from a doer to a non-doer, or changing you from a doer to a non-doer. And that's not true. This teaching is actually pointing out that there's no doer, and there never was a doer. So when it's realized that this was always the case, that the freedom and the enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, is always here. Is always here. So what it's saying is that there might be a belief that you're a doer now, but actually, in fact, you're not. You see? So that's why it's non-duality, because this is not about changing yourself from one thing to another, which you could call duality, or a dualistic way of viewing. That would be a dualistic view of enlightenment. So non-doership is not something that you attain, right? Because remember one of the fundamentals of the teaching is that anything you attain, you can also disattain, or it can also go. So yeah, this is pointing out that the perfection that's already here, and the freedom that's already here, and that freedom is realized when, essentially, when the sense of doership is seen through, is seen to be false, it's seen to be not true. The freedom's always here, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. That alone should give you, if you can have a little bit of faith, a little bit of trust in the teachings, and you know, some of you will be able to, some of you won't, and that's okay either way. Regardless of which side of the fence you are with that, there's a teaching for you, and the teaching will work for you either way. But if you can have a little bit of faith, you can just trust that the freedom's already here, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to really strive to get it or anything. On some level, you're already free. So nothing to worry about. But no, it's saying, to use this language, you could say there's nobody here already. There's already no one here. And when I say no one, I mean no doer. There's no one here. So you could say there's no one here talking to no one there listening. So there's no one doing anything. But the appearance of doing is perceived. So there's an appearance. And when I say appearance, I mean it's something that appears in our awareness, or it's something we experience. These words are all pointing at the same thing. There's an experience of some kind, and that experience is kind of happening. At least it's appearing to happen, meaning it's perceived, but there's no one doing any of it. There's no one here. Now, ignorance is that there's a belief that there is someone here. And again, what do I mean by someone here? I mean that it's a belief in doership. And what's doership mean? Doership is the idea, the concept that there is an entity here, some kind of entity here, or in the body perhaps, maybe in the head or in the chest or in the abdomen, depending where you feel it, or maybe all of that. Some kind of entity, usually in the body, that can create and author thoughts and create and author actions in some kind of independent fashion, some kind of autonomous fashion. It can create these thoughts and feelings and actions. Whereas one way this teaching works, and remember, the teaching itself is not actually necessarily true. It's just pointing at something. Well, the way this teaching works is to point out that there's no, if you look, you won't find anybody here. You'll just see things happening. But you won't see any evidence of a subject or an author, a separate entity that's authoring the thoughts and actions. So, for example, our experience of thinking is that a thought just appears as if by magic in our awareness, in our mental space. And then we call that thinking. And then another thought comes along at some point and says, I'm doing that. It says, I'm thinking. So we've got this concept of I or me as a doer. So I'm doing that. I'm doing this thinking. All right? So there's already a concept of separation in action there, that there's a separate entity, that's the separation, now doing something. And this teaching saying, no, there's no one there. That's the illusion. That's the false understanding or the false belief. And that false belief has consequences. Our thoughts and beliefs have consequences within this appearance. At least that's how it appears. So the consequence of that belief in operation is suffering. And similarly, when that belief is no longer present, when the belief in doership is no longer present, then the suffering goes. And in a way, nothing really changes. But it's the understanding of what's happening. The understanding of this experience has changed. So it's the same experience is interpreted in a different way. So when you have a good thought, say you have a really good idea, you no longer think, wow, I had an amazing idea, aren't I special? Aren't I amazing? Because you realize it's not your credit. So you can't, you notice that say you had a good idea, so say Tom had a good idea, you notice that the idea has emerged in Tom's mind. And it hasn't happened, it's not someone else's idea, it's Tom's idea. But you also recognize that it's just the result of a chain of cause and effect. There have been so many different things that have given rise to that good idea. And actually, Tom is not a separate entity that can claim credit for it. So, and similarly, if you have a bad idea, you can't really blame yourself either. You see that's the result of this chain of cause and effect that has gone into this bad idea. So you can forgive yourself, you can go easy on yourself, and you can be nice to yourself, and you can learn from your mistakes. You can still learn from your mistakes, but you're not taking anything personally. You're not taking your thoughts personally. You're not taking yourself personally.